Oh, it is good to be with you. I met with Rich, felt like 100 years ago. April, I don't know when it was. It's the only church leaders meeting that I've had in Bristol in a tent, right? And we really connected, and it was just wonderful to hear what you guys were up to and all the rest of it. And anyway, we put something in the diary, and here I am, and I'm going to share with you this morning. But I just want to encourage you with a couple of bits. First of all, when I came in here, I felt family. I felt family. Second thing, by the way, I get emotional quite a lot. So if I just boo for the next half an hour, just someone give me a cuddle at the end, put me in my car, and then, that'll be fine. I'm a grown man. Take the word home very seriously. When I came in here, I felt at home. Isn't that beautiful? And as we were worshiping, really powerful time, and thank you team for leading us in that and stuff. But I just had this sense of God saying, there are some people here today, and they would love to feel at home. But actually, you don't feel like you deserve it. There's something in your heart which the enemy is lying about, something that's happened in your life, and you're like, this is their story. I'm just sat in the room. I just want to, it's a lie. It's a lie. So I'm going to encourage you, if that is you, don't listen to me for the next half an hour. Go and grab someone that you love and trust, and we'll pray over you. And come home. Because Jesus wants you to come home. Because this is family. This is home. And this is what I've been feeling. I might just knock it on the air, Rich. Is that all right? Just leave it at that. Just pass around tissues. They're all blessed. We're selling them for £1. No, no, sorry. However, this is what I want to talk to you about this morning. I want to talk to you about what it means to love the stranger. What it means to love the stranger. And I want to start by telling you a story. Now, back in 2004, there was a little girl. She was aged 5 years old. And she was told by a social worker that she had to get her belongings together in her family home and get into a car because it wasn't safe to live at home anymore. And she was terrified. But she was actually kind of grateful for the fact that her older sister had also been told the same thing. And now the two girls, they had an awful time at home. It wasn't safe for a whole host of different reasons, but at least at some level, it was the world that they knew. They were bundled off and they were told that they had to go and move in with some strangers so that they could be safe. They were terrified. What would these people be like? Would it be more of the same of what they'd had inside their own backyard? The reality was, though, that their parents massively struggled. And over the years of doing family by themselves, with very little support or input, things had gone from bad to worse. Thanks, mate. And this is the story, that 5-year-old, of a young lady who eventually came to live with me and my family. And she's the reason why I do what I do. Half a page in. This is rubbish. Booed twice, mate. This is... They're used to it. Okay, that's good. Just feel sorry for me, really. I mean, that's the... Anyway, like Rich said again, my name's Dave Kingswood, and I'm what they call a church and community coordinator in Bristol with a charity, or two charities that have come together recently called Safe Families for Children and Home for Good. And I want to just share with you a little bit about what I do, but also how maybe you might be able to get involved. But before we do that, I would love to get into the Word. I'd love to get into the Bible with you a little bit. So we're going to read from Luke 10. It's going to come up on the screen here. This is quite a well-known bit of scripture. It might not be well known to you, that's okay, but for those of you maybe who have read the Bible for a while, this is quite a famous story. It's a story that Jesus told called the parable, essentially the story of the Good Samaritan. It goes like this. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he said, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "Well, what's written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it?" And he answered, "Well, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus replied, "You've answered correctly. Do that, or do this, and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor then?" And in reply, Jesus told this story, and he said, "A man was coming down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and when he was attacked by robbers, they stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he travelled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him, and he bandaged his wounds, and he poured on oil and wine. And then he put the man on his own donkey and brought him to an inn and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, it's like 2 coins, 2 bits of currency at the time, and he gave it to the innkeeper, and he said, "Look after him, and when I return, I'll reimburse you for any extra expense that you might have had. Which of these 3 do you think was the neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" The expert in the law replied, "Well, the one who had mercy on him." And Jesus replied, "Go and do likewise." Go and do likewise. So it's a pretty familiar story, right? But I do want to kind of get into, why does Jesus tell this story? Well, first of all, it starts with a challenge. Actually, it's an attempt to catch Jesus out. An expert in the law asks him, "What are the most important commandments?" And then he gets into the finer details of who is my neighbor. And Jesus responds to this question not with a theological answer, but with a story, as he often did in his ministry. So what do we see at the start of this story? Well, first of all, there is a man laying by the wayside. He is hurting. He is in pain. And this man is passed by, not worth stopping for. In fact, he is actively avoided. He is a man who is deemed untouchable. People don't want to get involved in the mess that he's in. A man who is maybe even seen to be undeserving of help. Because what did he expect travelling along that road? Because it was actually known for robbers and thieves. The hearers of this would have understood that at the time. Why go down that road? Maybe you deserve what happened to you. But I want to take it a step further. Maybe these things could apply to the parents of the kids that I mentioned in my story at the beginning as well. Maybe there are people like the man in the parable. Maybe they're broken and hurting, both physically and emotionally. And the stigma and shame of their own past and current circumstances mean that they are passed by or actively avoided. Suddenly it turns it into live ammunition, doesn't it? Let's go back to that parable. What do we see happen to that man? Well, eventually someone does stop to help, don't they? A Samaritan travelling down that same road. Someone who isn't content to pass by and ignore him. Someone who risks their own safety to stop and respond. And the Samaritan sees the man lying broken by the side of the rope, and he cries. He hears his cries for help. He understands what this man needs and says that he took pity on him. He gave him a kind word. He gave him a gentle touch. He gave him practical help by bandaging his wounds, pouring oil and water, all to start a healing process for this bloke. He wasn't scared to get his hands dirty, to give from his own pocket, to ensure that this man had a safe place to recover and become well again. Also, it says that he returned. He didn't just do his bit and leave. He came back, checked on him, made sure it was complete. You see, the Samaritan essentially embodied biblical hospitality, showing real, practical love for a stranger. So my question is, what would that have meant for the parents of the girls that I talked about at the beginning of my story to experience maybe that hospitality, to be seen, to be heard, to be understood? What would that have meant if they could have built a meaningful connection and kind of trusting relationship with someone to stand alongside them and say, do you know what, it's okay, I'm here with you? Can you imagine how life might have changed for them if someone had spoken that kind of hope into their lives? Maybe connect them to a church or a community toddler group. Maybe take them out for a cup of tea and a bit of cake to help them get the kids to school, to listen to their fears, maybe help see that they're not alone. You know, in the last few years, we're increasingly seeing the terrible impact of loneliness and isolation on our communities. And Bristol's no different, my friends, no different at all. And I'm sure equally we might have stories of what happened in lockdown in 2020 and 2021 and how it impacted us personally. And that period of time, I think, reminded us that we were wired for connection at some level, you know. Yet in a recent study, it's found in the UK that 45% of adults shared that they feel lonely in regular life. And what is fascinating and sad is that actually loneliness takes more of a toll on a person's mental and physical health than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Isn't that incredible? And actually it can increase a person's chance of mortality by 20%. You see, when we face life alone, it's a scary place. But as believers, it's also a reminder of, I think, for us that God did not design us that way. We're meant to be in family. Often isolation and loneliness discourages us from seeking meaningful support and connection as well, because sometimes there's a huge lack of self-worth or embarrassment about reaching out. And often, if a parent is in that situation, it can have a significant impact on their ability to meet their child or children's needs as well. Maybe they feel like they can't cope. They begin to think that maybe they're a bad parent, undeserving of help. Maybe they even think that the children might be better off without them. But how can we expect a parent to take care of a child well when maybe their own needs aren't even being met? The solution, we believe, is that everyone deserves to belong. That no one should be alone. Some years back, this organisation called Safe Families was started in the United States because someone recognised that by helping families, out, if we could help them out earlier in life, fewer kids went into the foster care system. At the moment in the UK, there are 100,000 children in the care system. 100,000. And research suggests that 60% of those cases are because early help wasn't available. It's a shocking statistic. But what if families could get the help that they needed before they hit a crisis point? What if they could find that hope, that connection, that sense of belonging? What if someone could come alongside them and provide that listening ear, that helping hand, that kind word? What difference could that make to their outcomes? What if someone could come to the home just to tidy up a bit, or put up a new set of curtains, or clear up the garden so that the children have got somewhere to play? What difference would these seemingly small acts of kindness, connection, love and trust have on a family? Not just to do their bit in the short term, but to make an impact maybe for years to come. Well, at Safe Families, we're going to try to do just that. We receive referrals from the local authority here in Bristol, and we get referrals from family intervention services and children's social care, who know that just with a little bit of help and support, a family who are currently feeling isolated and overwhelmed by their circumstances can be helped back up on their feet. I'm thinking actually of a couple of families not that far, just up the road from here. How about a local mum who's waiting for help? She's got 2 boys, and she would really benefit from a befriender to make a connection so that her and her boys don't feel so lonely and they can go out on some outings. She also struggles with finances a bit, and she would love some help to help navigate her money to become more independent. Or how about another mum with two boys up the road who wants a friend to talk to and someone that she can openly share with? She's got 2 dogs, and she'd love to go for walks with someone and connect with nature along with the boys. Maybe that could be you. So you see, the power of friendship with support could provide that much needed human connection. And their stories are just a couple of many stories of families that we come into contact with, but these 2 are just literally up the road. I'd love to show you a quick little video of someone who's experienced this kind of love and care that I've been talking about. This is a little movie about a lady called Tammy.
I grew up in care because I lost my mum and dad when I was a kid. Being a single mum with 2 kids and not having much support, like family, because I've got no family. I just wanted someone to understand me, like someone to help me, someone to can believe in me. Yeah, Peter and Vivian, they're like helping with the children. Like if I want an hour to myself, they'll come up and collect the children, leave me for an hour, do what I've got to do. And then I've got Sue and Ray that help me with gardening and take me out basically to get out for a bit.
She was very worried that she wasn't doing things right and maybe the children might be taken off her.
She never had the parental support, had she? Really? What she was doing, she was making up on her own half the time, and she didn't know whether that was right or wrong.
We volunteered for taking kids out, to see the kids growing up, and for them to relate to you, know who you are, and know that they're giving handbrake as well.
Because obviously I suffer with anxiety and depression, and obviously I can't get the children out, so I'm constantly with the children 24 hours a day, don't get like an hour to myself, so it affects my mental health a bit. If I didn't have them, I think I would have gone downhill, and I would have lost my kids. And it's just nice to know somebody you can talk to when you need help. So especially with Ray, I'm always on my phone to him, how to put a curtain pole up, what do I use? He's teaching how to use a lawnmower, the strimmer, so I could be independent a lot more. And really good people. They've helped me, and you know what, they never judge that, they know what I did and what I've done.
Well, it's just a wonderful thing to do. It's just clearly God's will that these families should have help and should feel loved.
In my angel, we've got a family, that I've got an auntie and uncle, or mum and dad, so it was nice to have that bond with them. They do change your life when you're in a bad place, they make it positive. Yeah, so you're not on your own. I'm excited to see him, so I know they're coming to see me, and I've got someone to talk to, like my family. Yeah, they like my family.
It's a beautiful video, isn't it? For around 10 years, myself and my family were foster carers. And we looked after a variety of children, but one young lady, she particularly stole our hearts, and her name's Lisa, and she's the little girl that I talked about at the beginning. She came from the most traumatic background, and we loved and we journeyed with her. And Lisa was 11 when she moved in with us, and she's in her mid-20s now. But through all the ups and downs we had with her, I'm so pleased that she calls myself and my wife Mum and Dad now. She found belonging. She found family. She found a church that loved her. But I always think, I wonder what it would have happened if someone had come alongside Lisa's mum when she was in her lowest points. You know, would Lisa and her siblings have been able to stay at home and maybe not be taken into care? Now, I don't know the answer to that. I really, really don't. But what I do know is that if a family isn't helped, the effect on children is profound. And you know, we as God's people need to bring the heart of God and to step into the role of foster carers and adopters too. So how can you get involved? Well, How can you follow Jesus' challenge of saying go and do likewise? How could you change the outcomes of a local family and maybe share the love of Jesus with them? Well, we believe that the church is the primary vehicle for change in our communities. We want to mobilise churches to hear what your heart is for your community and to provide you with a safe and effective way to help local families in need. And we want to show the local authority what God's church can do when it brings his love to the families that they're working with as well. So here's 3 ways, really practical ways you might get involved with us. Firstly, like I said, you can volunteer. Maybe you could become a family friend to meet up with a parent or a child and a child once a week, or maybe once a fortnight for that emotional and practical support. Have that coffee with them, bring them along to that toddler group. Maybe support them with a little bit of paperwork. Maybe you're good at that stuff. Maybe just go to the park, I don't know. Anything where that meaningful connection can happen. Maybe you could give an hour of your time every now and then to bring hope to a family and friend in need of a friend. Or maybe you know someone that would be amazing at this that might not be here today. I don't know. Maybe you could become a host home where you could offer maybe respite overnight care, or maybe you could become that resource friend to offer that practical support such as DIY or gardening like was mentioned in Tammy's video there. But maybe volunteering isn't for you, but maybe you could join us in prayer. You know, we believe in a God who can do more than we ask or imagine. Maybe you could stand with us as one of our prayer warriors and pray for the families that we're supporting. You can sign up on our website to receive regular updates and prayer requests if you want. But finally, you can give as well. You know, we're a charity. Around 75% of our funding comes from contracts with the local authority, which is really encouraging. But we do rely on the generosity of others to make up that shortfall. Maybe you could support us through a monthly or one-off donation. Or maybe you own a business and maybe you could perhaps support us as a charity partner. But just as I come into land, I want to finish with a quote from a parent we helped a few months back. And this is the feedback we received from her when we completed our support with her. She said this: "Safe families have introduced me to Jay," that's the name of the volunteer, "and have got me out and about more. I'm now motivated to do the things that normally I would have put off. You know, the fire within me has been relit and has been fueled to enable me to make the changes that I needed to make in my life. You've reminded me of who I am, and that I will survive. I would not have found me again without Jay's support." So I hope that really encourages you, firstly, to see how God is already working in our nation by connecting people. And maybe you're feeling that call to do more, and maybe get involved further in supporting us through prayer support or regular giving. Maybe you're interested in volunteering, or you know someone who would make a great family friend to come alongside a parent or child we're supporting. Maybe God is calling you to open your doors to a child through adoption or fostering. If any of these things apply to you, please do come and chat to me afterwards. I've just got some literature and I'll be hanging out for a little while over there. Do come and chat to me afterwards. I'd love to chat. Because wouldn't it be amazing if we could be the hands and feet of Jesus to more families in need, so more people don't feel alone or have no sense of belonging? You know, this is God's heart. I just want to share 3 verses. Look at these verses. In Romans 12:13, "Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality." That doesn't mean just have them round for dinner. It can mean that, but it doesn't really mean that. James 1:27, "Look after widows and orphans in their distress." Isaiah 54:2, "Enlarge the place of your tent. Stretch your tent curtains wide. Don't hold them back." Or as the Message says, "Clear lots of ground for your tents. Make your tents large. Spread out. Think big. Use plenty of rope. Drive the tent pegs deep, because you're going to need lots of elbow room for your growing family." So good. Maybe you could be part of that. Because together we hope for a society where no family feels alone and every child has a home where they can flourish, And we truly believe that the church is central to that vision. Thanks for having me. Amen.
Changed? Hello? Oh, there we go. I'm back. It just took a bit of time. Yeah, something that obviously I've alluded to already today in prayer, but I say this, every time we do a dedication, you get bored of it, don't you? Or a wedding, the society is broken, and it's broken for different reasons, and there's no judgment. People like in the video, there's no judgment on where people come from. I'm from a broken home. But the reason we're broken is because of sin. And we have a responsibility once we come into the kingdom to start looking at what are God's values. And if we live according to his values, we start putting a bit of society back together the way God intended it to be. And those statistics are horrifying, really, when you think about it, like 100,000 children in care. And we're not going to fix all that just as one church, but we can seek God on what is right. And my heart is, when I was chatting to Dave back in May or April time, was actually to think like, okay, I don't know, I can't think of anyone that would suddenly go and adopt anyone and be ready for that or whatever. But if we create a culture like that in the church and have it in our hearts and our mindset as something that is potentially there, it might not be right now, it could be, but it might not be right now, but it's in our hearts, then we're building a culture to say, actually, yeah, like this can happen. I could be part of the solution to a situation because it's in our hearts. And that's why I wanted Dave to come, because I think it's important that we talk about this stuff, we hear about this stuff, and we start to think about, can we contribute to helping to bring healing and restoration and help people that are maybe not got those awareness of even how to bring up children because they haven't had it themselves, to say, well, I can help with that. And you can see some of it is very simple practicalities. It's not having someone live with you. It can be like going in and cutting we can all cut the grass, or we can all go in and just help with a few little things or tidy up something. So I think there's something that we can all look at there and say, actually, I can contribute, or prayer or finances, whatever. But to me, it's more about building culture. I think if we can create a culture within the church where we have a heart for family, generally, that's God's heart, isn't it? But actually to kind of allow that to grow in our hearts, and if it's something that God is calling you into, that you can be like, yeah, it's time. And for some of you, that might be sooner rather than later, but for others, it might be something further down the line. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming, and please go and speak to him. He'll be over there in a minute, and just go speak to him if you just want to know more, get a bit more information, even if you're like, I'm not sure I'm going to do anything today, but you know it's something God has been sort of hitting in your heart. I always look at it, when we meet together and we're like, we want to reach the one. Do we want to reach the one? I always feel like, this is what I said to Dave, if it just one heart just starts to change, then that's the goal. And it's great if it's more, but if one heart just says, actually, I think this is something God's been putting on my heart for a while, but I didn't really know what to do with it, that's really going to help me, then this could have been for you today. So don't sit on it. Go and get some more information and pray into it, and let's see what God might do. And as a church, let's create that culture. We say that church is family. I really believe that statement. Like for me, church, Jesus saved my life, but church saved my life because I was broken, and I walked into a family that didn't judge, they didn't question anything, they just loved me, and they just poured into me, and that's what we want to be as a church here. That's my heart. That's why we say church is family. And it sometimes it looks like you think, is it, Lord? It doesn't look like it. We look like we're just falling apart. But that's family. Family is as messy, and family is that there's all sorts of things going on all the time that aren't always flowing nice and easily. But actually, church being a family is something that is important. And then from that place is like, can we pour that statement of family into society? Because society desperately needs it. And it has to come from the church. We have a big responsibility to start looking at ourselves as Christians and say, God, what is my responsibility? Like, how do I shine my light? And it's time to shine our light. It's not to sit on it, not to hide it under the bed, but actually to get out there and do something with it. And equally, if you're in this church and you are struggling, a bit like with the video, you feel like that's me, then come and ask for help. Just let us know, and we can see what we can do to practically help or prayerfully help in your situation. So don't just be there like, oh no, I'm supposed to be someone fixing it for someone else. No. We're all in different places at different times. Sometimes we need help, and sometimes we can help. And then it flips sometimes later on, doesn't it, when we're like, I need help now. That's church. That's what church is. We're not all going around and going, oh yeah, we're all fixed, and it's just that one person. Look at them, ruining it for everybody else, not fixed. We're all in different places at different times, and we all need help at different times in our lives. So don't be afraid to just say, I'm actually struggling a little bit, and I could really do with some support. Please come and speak to the church leadership. So